When I started to realize that I was transsexual, I looked around and I found out I was I was alone. There wasn't anybody that I could go and talk to. When I came to New York after leaving upstate, the first thing that hit me was the diversity of the people that were around me. There were people who were transsexual. They were involved in the professions. There were people who were involved in contemporary entertainment. There were people who were involved in the street scene. And while all this diversity was happening, the one thing they all had in common was that they had transgendered issues and that they were willing to talk about them cleanly, honestly, and openly. For the first time, I could walk into a room and I could see 10 or 15, sometimes even 30 pansexual people sitting around. I used to sit around and marvel at that. It was like, this is the transsexual equivalent of how many states in one room. For the first time, I met people who had been where I had wanted to go, who had experienced what I had experienced, and developed means of coping with it that were viable, that ended up enhancing me as an individual, as opposed to labeling me as human garbage. And that was powerful.
I think that one of the main reasons why a lot of transgender people isolate a lot is because many of us have this belief that once we do the physical transformation and the physical transition and have all the surgery we've ever wanted and all that, we think that that's fine and that's enough, and then we want to fall in the woodwork and blend into society and everything. But the thing is that a lot of us forget about the inside, the spiritual, the mental, emotional transition, that the scaffold doesn't reach, that we think really doesn't exist. And yet we go out and we blend into society and we can't really leave that behind because that's a part of us and that's always going to remain a part of us. And a lot of times we put ourselves into situations where we can't just talk about that to everyone out in society, at our jobs, family members or even lovers, significant others and their families. So it does bring a lot of loneliness and isolation. And I think it's better when we build community and share a lot of our experiences, past and present. We can be supportive of each other.
I feel that my isolation and my loneliness was the fact that I didn't have anyone to talk with, somebody that I could feel comfortable, like a parent, a counselor, or just a friend that I could sit down and share my views and my thoughts on what I wanted my life to be. Now that I'm on my feet and I have my life halfway together, but it's more together now than it was before, I just feel that I can give back to my transgender community and help out other girls and let them know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, I identify as a cross-dresser. And as a cross-dresser, I'm a man, I'm a heterosexual man who dresses up in women's clothing, but it's more than just putting on a dress. For myself and for most cross-dressers, there is a gender issue there. We strongly identify with both the masculine and feminine aspects of ourselves. And the cross-dressing is trying to show on the outside how we feel about ourselves on the inside. And the dressing really helps to accentuate the feminine aspect of our lives that we've repressed a lot in our lives. Most cross-dressers, including myself, was in the closet for a long time. Most cross-dressers are still in the closet, still very isolated. It's very characteristic of our community to have a lot of isolation, thinking you're the only person in the world who cross-dresses. And that's something that was quite a revelation for me, was to find out there's a whole community of people called the transgender community that we're a part of.
Community is a hard one for me. It's very hard because I think a lot of trans people learn to be, the alienation is so great that we learn to separate ourselves it's part of our early conditioning, is just feeling not a part of. So developing a community and a support system can be very difficult because, I know, speaking from my own point of view, separating myself, isolation is like a big core of my, the negative aspect of, my trans being. And that's something I struggle with. And every day it's working on self-acceptance. It's a slow process, learning to love yourself and become empowered as a transgendered person. It's funny because, I'm a singer and a writer, and I have a band called Trans Sisters, and we did this gig in Philadelphia, and there were some trans people in the audience, and they just came up and they were just like, Chloe, I hope you know how important it is that you continue to do what you're doing, because when I'm sitting here in Philadelphia alone, I can put on the CD and just be like, oh yeah, I'm not alone.
My name is Philomena, and I am currently the Empress of the Imperial Court of New York. I know that gender illusionist or even female impersonator is the PC phrase these days, but I think of myself as being a drag queen. The transgender community encompasses a wide range of people, just like the gay and lesbian community, particularly in New York and big cities, encompasses a wide range of different people. We have people who identify themselves as being women, people who identify themselves as being men, depending on who they are, and varying also what they want to look like and what they want to wear. I identify myself as being a gay man. When I'm not dressed like this, I wear flannel shirts and blue jeans just like every other gay man on the street. But I want to have that option. I want to have the choice of being able to look like this if I want to, or look like that and completely blend into the gay community. Nobody would ever recognize me or think that I was anything except a gay man.
I don't know any other girls who are as new as I am, okay? I'm 25, and most of the girls who are 25, they've been out for a while, or they've been dressing for a while, or they've been hormoning for a while. The things that are important to me is going to work every day and getting up at a certain time and working hard and getting those rewards from that. And you see someone who's so beautiful and it's what you want to look like, you're just like, well, who cares if I went to school for 4 years? I was wasting my time. I should have been doing hormones. I should have done this. I should have done that. But I think that some of the advantages for me are that I pay my own rent. I'm empowered. That's one thing that I was had instilled in me by my family, is that, they always told me I could be whoever and whatever I want to be. I think a lot of these girls don't have that. They feel like it's all about the facade, about how big your chest is, or the fact that you have a booty. Stuff like that. Although there may have been a lot of differences in my experiences and the experiences of most transgendered people, I do feel a very strong connection with the rest of my community, and I would really like to encourage all of them, all of us, to come together in the places like Positive Health and Gender Identity Project, because these are places that, we are doing a lot of important work in, empowering ourselves in a lot of different ways.
The best thing about coming out and being out is that I am finally myself. The impact of coming out, and it wasn't necessarily a conscious choice. It was something that I had to do. It was just something that was there. It had to be done. And you have to have the courage to do it. And it's just now that the men are starting to come out and saying, we are part of this community. Yeah, I'm not ashamed to say I'm a transsexual man. Because I know I'm not just your everyday, ordinary man. I know that. I'd be a fool to try to think that. But I'm also not very much of a woman either. So, I am a transsexual. I'm proud of it, that's what I am. It's like I'm proud to be Native American, And I think my coming out, especially on national TV, as a man, gave the other guys the courage to say, well, if he can do it, I'm not afraid to do it. And it's very important. Like I said, we need to have you guys in the community. We need to stick together as a community to show that solidarity, and that we're not separated. We're not gay and lesbian here. We're not Oriental here. We're not blacks over there. We're not transsexuals. And there's the transsexual men. There's a transsexual woman. My God, we could go on forever. We have to show some form of solidarity, because if we don't, we're lost.
For me, community was a big part of reinforcing my identity and helping me to come out in the first place. The fact that the community was somewhat established already when I was coming out helped me to feel comfortable in coming out. It helped me to sort of find my niche. Being from, you know, a whole group of different, what you'd consider minorities. I'm African American, I am gay, I'm a male, you know, I don't know if you consider that a minority, but, and I'm transsexual. That's a whole melting pot of different aspects to my personality, who I am, and for people, it does get kind of confusing. I'm also gay, so it's two separate. It's not two separate identities, but it's just two aspects of the person that I am. I understand that other people are confused about it. They'll I constantly get questions about it. Well, if you're going to be male, then why would you want to be with other males? If you want to be with males, why not stay a woman? The simple answer to that is I'm not a woman. I never felt like a woman. I've never been like a woman. So that's how I usually answer that question.
Being transgendered is a little extra because you do have a perspective that people are not going to have. I've seen both sides of the fence. So whether you start out as male or female, you're getting that perspective, and it allows you to deal and be more sympathetic. Although maybe emotionally I was never there completely, I did see what it was like to be treated the way women are treated. And it brings me to a point where I can deal with things much more effectively. So whether you start out as male or female, you're getting that perspective, and it allows you to deal and be more sympathetic. We need to help and support one another. We need to be there for one another. Basically, that's what community is for us. It's something that was never there, that we're now developing, and someplace where we can work out our own internal problems, since we're the only ones who are going to understand what we're going through at the time.
I think one of the biggest problems with safe sex in this community is that one of the ways that I was told that I would be successful as a woman was if people wanted to screw me. And so what I needed to do was to sell my body. In addition to which, there are a lot of people that don't want to sleep with you because you're a transsexual. And so to increase the odds in your favor, you make yourself more available. You are willing to do more, go farther, be more accessible, and that will attract people who normally might not have bothered. So if they have a choice between you, accessible, and a non-transsexual woman who's less accessible, maybe they'll come toward you. And so what happens is also you want to be accepted by people, and sex feels like acceptance, even if it's just for a night, even if it's just for 15 minutes. And I still see today a lot of trans people who are having unsafe sex or simply having sex addictively to feel accepted, to feel loved, to feel validated as a woman or as a man. And I think it's particularly problematic when you intersect this with people who have to work the streets for a living because they've been thrown out of their job. Because you may have people who are not only sleeping compulsively on the side, but are also turning tricks. It's not always easy to get your trick to put on a condom beforehand, especially if the person is a little drunk or a little dangerous, or you're a little bit drunk, or you're a little bit out of it that night. I think what this does is it makes it very easy to have unsafe sex, unplanned sex, and sex where you just don't think about it. You go from one body to another. And I had my time at doing that, at going out to a bar and taking people home or being taken home by people who are virtual strangers, and being ready to move all my belongings into their apartment the next morning, and going through this kind of thing almost as they talk about sex and love addiction as a way to escape the rest of my life. Because as long as there was someone across a bar who found me attractive, who wanted to hold my body, who wanted to penetrate it, then I must be okay as a woman, then I was meeting the characteristics. And as long as I could get that person to take me home and hold me and tell me it was all right, and they found me attractive and they wanted to kiss me and love me, I must be doing things okay. As long as I'm ashamed of my body and I need to somehow legitimate it through sex, I'm going to be willing and able to do things that I probably shouldn't, either because of the way they're going to affect my head or because they're simply sexually unsafe. We need to start looking at those things. When you look at what's between my legs and you say, oh, that's not what I was expecting, I need to say, well, you know, this is who and what I am. The nice thing about life is if you don't want to sleep with me, that's okay. The door is over that way. If you're happy with this, because I'm happy with my own body, then maybe we can proceed. And if you're not sure, maybe we can talk about it. But we don't have to jump into bed and have sex while we're negotiating these issues. And I don't have to offer you my body in order to feel like I'm somehow meeting some standard of realness that's out there.
We as transgender women need to be more healthier with ourselves. Basically, to me, you have to have self-love before you can love anyone else. We're always looking for affection, warmth, and love in the wrong places. And basically, to me, that's where, you know, it becomes unhealthy because, as for an example, we have unsafe sex because we feel that this is an act of love and warmth, and then in the morning, he's gone or she's gone. And then we as transgender women are left lonely again, so that's more depressing. So which will make me go out and do something more unhealthy, maybe drugs, or maybe, you know, prostitution.
Okay, I'd like to really address some of the guys out there now, like a man-to-man talk here. Most guys that I talk to don't even think about condoms. And as a matter of fact, you know, the first time I had sex as a transgender man, I didn't. And I thought, wait a minute, you know? And I teach about HIV to police academies, and but it just wasn't foremost in my mind. But I think that's very dangerous way of thinking. And you guys, you need to wear them. You need to wear the condoms. You need to make sure you have them all the time, just in case you get lucky, you know. You just really, you have to take responsibility and realize that, you know, you only get one shot. You only get one chance. And if you get it, you don't get rid of it.
If you're, I think that if you are a drag queen and you're in bed with a man because that's where he wants to be and he knows what's going on, I think that it might be something of an issue if you're stopping to put a condom on because it's drawing attention to your genitalia. It depends on who your partner is, though. There are some men that want to maintain the illusion that you're a complete woman, and they don't want to see that. And there are some men who are fascinated by the idea that you have that equipment and that it works, and that's the reason they're there. So it depends on who your partner is. And knowing that if somebody doesn't want to really have that called to their attention, to, you know, make sure that it happens in a way that they're not so confronted with it.
Because of the isolation that cross-dressers experience, there are certain health risks. We believe that there's a larger percentage of substance abuse in the cross-dressing community. There's more probably at-risk sex sometimes in the cross-dressing community, because there's a lot of fantasy fulfillment going on, and that when it's activated upon, and you know, a cross-dresser might go and have sex with a man, and the next day be dressed up like Joe Schmo, and kind of think that that was another person who had sex the night before, and may not take the proper precautions. And that's something that we really need to address in our community, some of the health concerns, and that's something that's been not talked about enough.
Sex, sex, sex. Sex, sex, sex.
All right, now look, you all know why we're here today. We're here as the HIV/AIDS prevention team from the Gender Identity Project. We're here to put together safe sex kits for outreach for people all in the clubs and on the street. What are dental dams?
What happened
Dental
to our
dams
eyes?
are used for either rimming or cunnilingus. Cunnilingus.
Cunnilingus.
New definition for the word.
That's curlingus. That's curlingus.
Can we get to the dental dams?
A lot of people.
Yeah.
Okay. This is used on the outer part of the sexual organ. If you want to do any rimming, basically you just put it near the asshole, pardon my French, and just...
And don't wear lipstick. And it's important because what is this stuff about? Coming from where I come from and being a post-op, I never thought about like practicing safe sex. You know, where my cervix is where it ends. So I really didn't think that I had to like practice any type of safe sex.
Of course, we all know what the gloves are for, right?
When it's cold.
Absolutely. You know what the best thing with these gloves are? And I think if you have like a lot of them, what's great and what's one way of implementing the use of like safer sex and latex is if like when you're by yourself, you know, to use condoms and lubrication, because then that's the best way to do it, like self-loving, so that by the time you have sex with a partner, you're already getting hot by it, you know?
Now,
yeah.
Oh, that's shouldn't we also be careful with our nails? Because sometimes, like I just have a crack over here, they could, you know, really do very much damage to a condom or to a latex glove. It could very easily. See?
What?
Whoa.
Actually, not just a nail with a little bit of a jagged right there. So we have to be careful of our fingernails to make sure that
Nora,
they're...
one of the other things, aside from fingernails, with the gloves, what you should always do is you use cornstarch in the gloves. Never use talcum powder.
Yes.
You slide in and out. And the other thing, aside from fingernails, Lee and I both have nose jewelry. You're putting your face someplace, the jewelry gets caught. Whether it's a glove, a condom, or a dental dam, it'll rip.
Right.
So what should we put in these baggies?
All right, so far we have the gloves, we have the
That's
condoms.
lots of condoms.
Well,
Come on, you can't reuse them.
I'm cheap, I can't. What else?
A lot of guys think they know how to use a condom, but basically they don't know how to use a condom. They think it's just slapping it on and that's it. There's a technique to using a condom. How do you do it? This is how you do it. Okay, first, take the condom out. Actually, before you do that, you should look at the expiration date. See?
Good point.
Right?
Oh, I bet mine are all expired.
Okay. Let's roll it down softly, carefully.
What's that tip for?
Okay, you hold the tip like so.
That's to collect them.
Once the person finishes ejaculating, he'll have room, or she, whatever.
These are pretty neat, you know, but and I like the colors. You think they're going to be attractive to like the girls out there in the stroll?
They're gorgeous. Look at them.
What about the phallic women? Like they need to learn that they need to protect themselves when they're being a little more butch in bed and throwing their guy or their chick on the floor.
They don't look like condoms. So
They
like if
look
they
like
fall, you know, if you're in the restaurant with somebody and they happen to fall out, you know, it's just kind of like, oh, my mint.
We need to make sure that we also include the pamphlets on positive health about injecting hormones, because a lot of the girls I come across, they share needles, and that's not a safe thing to do.
So what are we going to do about outreach? Because I know like Asian transgender people go to certain clubs, and I've seen other like Hispanic or Latino people at different clubs.
As well as African American.
Yes, I mean, of course there are different.
Also, what about, I mean, I live in the Leather Arms. What about all the gay guys that are transgender?
Hi, where have you been?
Hi. Oh my God.
Ay, mija, Cristina, Cristina, ¿cómo estás, mamá?
Qué bella te ves.
Crispina, it's about time. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for your support.
What? Okay, what was the focus? What were you talking about? Of course, our home card. That's what we have.
That's the most important thing in the kit.
Of course.
Y'all want to hear what it says?
Yeah.
Girls, are you really looking to turn it out? Do you want to be fab and not be fierce? You know it's over for you. There's no other girl like you. Being the one and only legend isn't easy every day, and you always need to take care of yourself. Let us introduce you to a place where you can show other girls out there that you care about yourself and your fellow sisters. Empowerment is the key to life. It's the taste to call. The Gender Identity Project.
It's limited to mostly girls. I mean, you know, you got...
That's true.
You know, we really need to address the guys as well. But
Yeah, I'm sure we'll make one for the guys.
So, Crispina, what would you say to a lot of the gay Latin men that do drag shows in the bars around town?
Mira, yo entiendo que es bien difícil pasarle a la gente por la cabeza lo que tienen que usar y siempre vienen con 10.000 excusas y a nosotras siempre nos ven como gente que que somos de la izquierda, como que no somos tan importantes ni nada. Y la cosa más que me pasa a mí es que el macho siempre me dice, no, pero eso a mí no me cabe, que me queda muy apretado, que no me gusta usarlo. Mira, tú lo que tienes que hacer, tú se lo coges así, mira, te lo desarrollas, ¿ok? Y ahí mismo se lo sopla.
Word.
Y tú dime si no te cabe esto, ¿ok? Así que si no te cabe conmigo, tú lo coges, no.
What'd she say?
I think what you said applies to also the Asian American community that's in New York or in the urban areas as well. I mean, the whole idea of the Asian person being like more, passive or the whole thing and not taking ownership of their bodies, of their, their buttholes, whatever, their mouths, everything. I mean, there has to be latex or saran wrap or a condom or something, it's the same issue. I think when you start drinking in clubs, I think that totally makes you forget, hey, I better use a condom because when I have a drink, I feel invincible. Or when I'm young, I feel invincible. I mean, these are the two targets that we have to address, the young people as well as the people in bars having drinks.
An issue that I would really like to talk about is what about the girls who have HIV and AIDS, like myself. I think that we should also go out and do street walkabout for the girls who are selling themselves and in clubs and different environments, risky behavior environments, and not want them just about HIV and AIDS, but also STDs.
Okay, we're all talking about, getting the information out to the community and making sure everybody is aware and educated, but we're not talking about the how-to. How do we have fun with it? How do you talk to your partner about safe sex and keep it erotic at the same time?
If I went out to a disco and I met someone and I was going to have a one-night affair, and I don't have time to run out and get a blood test with him, then we have to make, I have to make sure that I have a conversation with this guy and tell him that we have a responsibility and we both put in. We have to put in both our responsibilities that we have to protect ourselves with latex.
All right, everyone reach in and start getting some of these materials. We want to start making some of these safe sex kits.
Yeah.
So let's start working on. Thank you. Does everyone have bags and all that?
Yeah.
And the condoms?
Okay.
That's a beast. About 5 of you here.
The Gender Identity Project, better known as the GIP for short, started around 8 years ago because there was a dire need for transgender people to have a safe place to get connected in some sort of trans-friendly atmosphere. Let me tell you about our peer-driven program and what being a peer counselor entails and what we have to offer you. Peer counselors mean that somebody is of that experience themselves. So when I'm telling you I'm the coordinator and I'm also a peer counselor, I'm letting my clients know that I am of transgender experience myself, which gives us an instant connection and gives us a tie that binds us together. It also helps transgender people that feel very isolated and alone connect to somebody. It might be the very first time that they get to connect to somebody who is of transgender experience also. A very important service that the Gender Identity Project provides is HIV/AIDS prevention and education for the transgender population. Let's talk about another resource available. There's Positive Health, which is located in Times Square area. Positive Health also will exchange needles to make sure if they are using black market hormones that they could get a clean needle and they could take better care of themselves. The clinic, which stands for Transgender Health Education Clinic, which is a part of the Community Health Project, which is a gay and lesbian identified clinic here at the center. The Transgender Health Education Clinic meets once a month and is geared specifically to the transgender population. By doing this service, by having the Gender Identity Project available for all transgender people from all walks of life, I'm here with a bunch of other peer counselors to offer something that has been missing for many, many years, and will give people a better chance at looking at their transgender experience without being so pathologized or without feeling disconnected to who they are.
Well, it's interesting. I came to this work out of my own identification with the transgender community. I've served as the Vice President of the Imperial Court of New York for several years. We're a philanthropic organization that provides services and fundraising for the gay and lesbian and transgender communities, particularly with a focus on health issues and the AIDS epidemic. And that's been really my entree into the professional work I do as a psychologist. The whole idea of AIDS prevention and treatment for the transgender community is an issue that I believe has been largely overlooked. It's a segment of the population, the transgender community, I mean, that's overlooked in general, and particularly in the area of AIDS prevention. So we have, as professionals, a responsibility to raise consciousness among other professionals about the need to impress upon our clients their needs to protect themselves.
Before the center got involved in the Gender Identity Project, there were literally no resources anywhere for transgender and transsexual people. No resources around any kind of peer counseling, very few resources in the professional community, and absolutely nothing that dealt with the transgender experience of HIV and AIDS transmission and treatment. So when the center got involved in the GIP and the GIP got involved in this HIV intervention effort, it was really the first time that anything became available, not only in New York City, but nationally, that was specific to the needs and issues and concerns of transgender people. It's an important opportunity to bring HIV prevention education into the context of the transgender experience by working with peer educators. And the research tells us that peers are the best ones to give the message. By giving transgender peer educators an opportunity to go out and work with their own community and work side by side with professionals, side by side with lesbian and gay educators, we are really, really going to the heart of what we need to do for effective HIV prevention. And the center is a great place to do it from.
In the past, the transgender population was apart from the gay and lesbian organization because many people did not identify as gay or lesbian. Coming together here at the Lesbian and Gay Community Services Center is empowering for all communities. It's empowering for the gay and lesbian community. It's empowering for the transgender community. The mission of fighting heterosexism, fighting oppression and stigmatization because you are part of a sexual minority is the importance of the work that we do here, not for only the consumers, but for the staff as well.
This community is finding its voice. It's finding that the oppression that we've stood for is actually our purpose, and what we ought to be about is not just meeting to discuss it, but what we ought to be about is coming out and loud and proud and changing that system so it doesn't happen to the next generation coming behind us, because we know what's in front of them if we don't change it.
Empowerment is great when you're home alone in your apartment, but you hit the streets and you can lose it like that. And that's when it's, you know, I need to put a quarter in the phone booth and say, like, I'm having a hard day, and, you know, and these are my sisters, you know, that help me stay empowered.
What I think is different and unique about the transgendered experience is that I can sit here and tell you that, one, I'm a woman by choice. and two, I feel like I have a rich background experience, as painful as they may have been sometimes, where I felt that I didn't always fit in 100% in all the different communities, and yet I've always fit in somewhat in all of those communities.
You know, none of us are ever alone out there. There's a great big community out there of people to talk to and to communicate with and to network with.
This gender identity project is probably the most important thing to have happened for the transgender community in years. Without it, I don't know how many of us would have been lost and alone outside, because I know in the beginning I was, and if it wasn't for the center, I don't know where I'd be today.
To be part of a larger family is something that we really yearn for, and that's something that cross-dressers really need to know, is that they're a part of a large, vibrant, very exciting community, and that's the transgender community.
I think that if we just found ways to channel that energy, that intelligence, that enthusiasm into maybe a more traditional and positive outlets, that we would really advance as a community.
People tend to be afraid of or just to not understand things they've never been exposed to. So exposure just through doing things like this is really important. You can be powerful and you can be gentle and you can be assertive no matter what your genitalia is and no matter what you're wearing.
We as transgender people always think that it's better to be legends or legendary. To me, as transgender people, we need to stop trying to be legends and start trying to be statements, because statements last longer than legends. Martin Luther King, he was a legend. He died, his statement lives on. I had a dream.
You know, we're here for each other, and I want everybody out there to know that we are here, and if you need us, we'll be here, and it really is, there's no greater love than that, except for what we have for each other.
I envision a chain of people, one generation helping the next and helping the next. If we build our community strongly, we'll have that, and perhaps that's the thing that we pass on to the next person and then to the next. And we need the person who's alone to step up and to grab that chain.